Then we have the third lesson from the sermon, and that is the importance of the preservation of the economy. Allahu Akbar. Look at this. You see how Islam is a complete way of life? Right? The sermon has lessons pertaining to you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you and the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you and matters of this world. Because you live in this world. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam taught us in his sermon about the importance of looking after the economy. Thus in the sermon, he spoke against interest. And thus in the sermon, he spoke about zakah. Because as we said in our previous talk, zakah and interest are not just moral obligations in Islam. Right? Where with zakah, it's a pillar of Islam which we have to follow. And interest is haram that we have to stay away from. Yes, this is true. But it's also an economical system. Over and above being an obligation in terms of doing it and staying away from it, it's also an entire financial system. Because interest breeds debt at a level faster than wealth creation. If I borrow money from you and you lend it to me at interest, and the reason why I've borrowed this money is so I can engage in some wealth creation activity, right? When I borrow that money from you, for me to create wealth, I need time as well as effort. But when you lend it to me with interest, then you only need time for your wealth to increase. So what I owe you is increasing at a rate faster than the wealth that I can create with that which you lent me, right? You might have lent me 10,000 riyals, for example, right? That has to go into my business. And before I can even strike a profit or even break even, I might have to run that business for 6 months or 3 months, right? We know, those who are entrepreneurs here and you have businesses, you know a business doesn't run with a profit from the outset, right? It runs at a loss, right? And then maybe in the third quarter or the second quarter or in month 6, you break even and then you start gaining a profit, right? Now you've created economical wealth. Something which has a proper impact on society. But by the time I've created this 1 riyal, what I owe you has grown so much. My 10,000 has become 12,000. So the debt creation is faster than the wealth creation. And this is not conducive to the community. Thus the Sharia came down and made riba haram. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam spoke about preserving the economy in his farewell speech before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took him to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thus take heed of this, O servants of Allah. Take heed of this. And thus Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that the interest of Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib is cancelled in its entirety and immediately. May Allah grant us the understanding. I wish we could go further. I'm very passionate when we talk about these matters of economics and so on and so forth. I have a master's degree, or my master's degree topic was in treasury management from a Sharia perspective. And it brought great insights and benefit to my life in terms of my understanding of the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. And the appreciation of the wisdoms behind the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala having been decreed. Wallahi. Today, we always thought that zakah is an obligation. We never thought that it's a financial system as well. Subhanallah. Because the economists will tell you that when the rich share their wealth with the poor, then all the segments in society can engage in buying and selling. Not just one portion of society. And the more, the merrier, right? If we have an abundant number of people in society buying and selling, then that by default will translate to an abundant formation of profit and wealth creation. The more people that engage in real activity, real financial activity, this leads to a greater profit creation, right? So when Allah stipulated zakah, He's shifting the wealth from the rich to the poor, so that all of the wealth is not sitting with a portion of society, right? And this is what interest does. Interest sucks the money out of one sector, the real sector, and shifts it into the financial sector. Because for the real sector to make money, they borrow from the financial sector and become slaves to the financial sector for the rest of their life. So the wealth is sitting with one segment of society, and this is not conducive to wealth creation. So Allah wants to shift it out. So He made zakah compulsory. So that 2.5% is moving, is being shared within society, number one. And number two, made interest haram, to ensure that this wealth didn't go back to one particular sector. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam teaches us about preserving the economy. And that's lesson number 3. Barakallahu feekum. Just making sure you're not sleeping.